I tell them, make the crowd go silent and then watch the crowd leave early.
Tom Watson breaks his silence, and the golf world is shaking. His explosive statement after the 2025 Ryder Cup has left fans stunned and divided across the globe. But there's more to this story than a few harsh words. And today, I'm revealing the real reason behind Watson's shocking confession that no one saw coming. Legendary outburst.
Tom Watson, Ryder Cup legend and 8-time major champion, says he's ashamed of American golf fans after how they behaved at Bethpage Black. So why would one of the classiest men in golf call out his own golf fans? At the 2025 Ryder Cup, Europe beat USA 15-13. And I would like to say the biggest news coming out of this was how good Team USA was on the final day. But unfortunately, it's not.
Tom Watson has just detonated the politest bomb in golf history. In a world where 4 is the loudest insult, Watson went nuclear on his own people, the US fans at the 2025 Ryder Cup. With the digital equivalent of a raised eyebrow, he posted a message that sliced cleaner than any wedge he's ever swung. As an American, I am ashamed. The comment landed like a cold shank on a hot Sunday. The Ryder Cup at Bethpage Black, already branded as America's loudest golf show, just turned into a morality play, complete with heckling, flying beer cans, and an 8-time major winner serving as the disappointed dad of golf. Watson's words weren't just criticism, they were an intervention. And as the golfing world gasped, one question echoed across fairways and comment sections alike. Has the gentleman's game finally lost its manners? Like and subscribe. This meltdown's got range. Watson's rebuke wasn't born from mild disapproval. It came from heartbreak. A man whose swing once whispered grace found himself forced to type an apology on behalf of a nation that had turned the greens into a gladiator pit. His words, rude and mean-spirited, carried the kind of sharp precision usually reserved for approach shots at Augusta. The irony? This wasn't a losing captain making excuses. This was Tom Watson, golf's stoic saint, calling out his home crowd for acting like they were tailgating at a football game. The digital crowd split instantly. Some hailed him as a hero for saying what needed to be said, while others accused him of betraying the red, white, and blue. But beneath all the noise, one truth echoed. When Tom Watson speaks, golf listens. As Watson's statement spread, the mood around the Ryder Cup changed from celebration to self-examination. What was supposed to be a showcase of skill became a showcase of shame. Fans had crossed the line from patriotic enthusiasm to drunken anarchy, turning Bethpage Black into the world's fanciest frat party. Rory McIlroy's glare said it all: fury, disbelief, and a splash of, "Is this golf or Game 7?" Even Keegan Bradley's calm post-match comments couldn't hide the chaos. When Watson weighed in, he didn't just condemn behavior, he exposed an uncomfortable truth about modern fandom. Passion without respect is just noise. The man who once led America to victory in '93 had now delivered a different kind of leadership, moral authority in 280 characters. And yet, his message wasn't all fire and brimstone. Watson didn't just scold, he congratulated. His post gave Europe the credit they deserved. Your team play was sensational. It was a subtle flex, a reminder that true sportsmanship shines brightest when the scoreboard doesn't. Watson's apology, humble but firm, was the opposite of performative outrage. It was a masterclass in accountability and a reflection of what golf used to be, a game played not just with clubs, but with class. The irony? It took a 76-year-old legend to teach a new generation how to behave. As fans debated whether he was right or too soft, Watson's words started a conversation much larger than the Ryder Cup. What happens when a sport built on silence drowns in its own noise? When applause becomes mockery? When the gallery becomes the story? Tom Watson might not have meant to start a cultural war, but he did. And the question left hanging over Bethpage like a foggy morning tea time was simple. Can golf still call itself a gentleman's game when the gentlemen are throwing beer cans? Crowd chaos.
The biggest news was the fans. The constant heckling, the personal abuse, throwing cups of beer at Rory's wife Erica. It got so bad, hecklers, I'm not going to say these are all the fans, because one, I wasn't there, and two, I'm reading what I'm seeing within the media, and what Ryder Cup legends were saying, fans and hecklers were told to shut the F up through mid-round.
Bethpage Black. The name now sounds less like a golf course and more like a crime scene. What was meant to be a patriotic spectacle turned into a weekend-long riot disguised as fandom. The Ryder Cup's 2025 edition will go down not for a single clutch putt, but for the soundtrack of boos, taunts, and aluminum clanks that echoed through the New York air. American fans, allegedly the most passionate in the world, somehow mistook golf etiquette for WWE energy, and the result was a chaos that even the PGA didn't see coming. It started small, a few heckles here, some snarky chants there. But by Saturday afternoon, the crowd was feral. Rory McIlroy, that Irish firebrand, was the main target, booed on the tee, mocked on the fairway, and harassed so relentlessly that security had to intervene. His wife, Erica Stoll, wasn't spared either, hit by a stray beer can like collateral damage in a battle of bruised egos. It was the kind of behavior that made even seasoned reporters mutter, "This isn't golf anymore." Shane Lowry and Justin Rose confirmed similar scenes, water bottles thrown, personal insults hurled, and a level of hostility usually reserved for soccer hooligans. If golf had an underbelly, Bethpage just ripped it open. Tom Watson's reaction didn't come out of nowhere. It came from disgust. Watching his beloved sport descend into mob mentality must have felt like watching your childhood home burn. His apology wasn't a PR stunt, it was penance. "As a former player, Captain, and as an American, I am ashamed," he said. And that's a sentence that hits harder than any drive off the tee. He wasn't just apologizing to Rory or Europe, he was apologizing to golf itself, to the quiet, respectful tradition that's supposed to define it. But here's the paradox. Some fans argued that the noise, the chants, the rowdiness were what made the Ryder Cup electric. Others said it made it embarrassing. So which is it? Passion or poison? Keegan Bradley, trying to play peacemaker, called the fans passionate but maybe slightly too far. Slightly? That's like saying the Titanic took on a bit of water. His attempt to downplay the mayhem only fueled more outrage. Meanwhile, European players were left wondering if they'd accidentally signed up for a contact sport. The tension on the course mirrored the noise in the crowd, a hostile energy that turned every missed putt into an insult and every victory into revenge. The Ryder Cup had officially crossed into theater, and the fans were the main act. By Sunday, as Europe closed out the win, the atmosphere wasn't pride, it was regret. Even victorious Europeans looked uncomfortable, shaking hands under a chorus of jeers. The PGA scrambled to issue statements about fan decorum, as if that could undo the beer-soaked chaos. Watson's words cut through the corporate fog, clear, simple, damning. And now, golf has to answer for its own monster. How did the quietest sport become the loudest disgrace? Storied legacy. To understand why Tom Watson's words hit like a thunderclap, you have to understand who he is and what he represents. Watson isn't just a name on a trophy, he's golf royalty. The man who tamed links courses, who stared down Seve Ballesteros, who lifted the Ryder Cup as both player and captain. Born in 1949, molded by the era of restraint and elegance, he's the walking embodiment of golf's old code: grace under pressure, humility in victory, dignity in defeat. So when he says he's ashamed, it's not casual, it's generational. Watson's history with the Ryder Cup reads like scripture. 1977, 1981, 1983, he helped the US win with precision and poise. Then, in 1993, he captained a team to triumph at the Belfry, a masterclass in leadership that defined an era. To see the same event, his sacred ground, devolve into jeering, swearing, projectile-throwing chaos must have cut deep. For Watson, the 2025 spectacle wasn't just about a lost cup, it was about losing the soul of golf itself. His post wasn't a reprimand, it was an elegy. It's almost poetic. The man who built his career on composure, now forced to confront a generation raised on viral outrage and "let's go" chants. Watson came from a time when silence was respect and applause was gratitude. Now, cheers sound like jeers, and the crowd is a performance in itself. His apology, ashamed as an American, was less about patriotism and more about propriety. It was the voice of an elder statesman staring at a crowd that had forgotten why golf even matters. Europe's 15-13 victory only made the contrast starker. While the Europeans celebrated with unity and restraint, the American side looked distracted, fractured, and drowned out by their own fans. The irony? The noise meant to inspire them became their undoing. Analysts said it best. The home crowd turned hostile, and the energy backfired. Watson knew this too. His praise for Europe's sensational early dominance was as much a compliment as it was a warning. When discipline meets chaos, discipline wins every time. Watson's intervention wasn't just a nostalgic rant, it was a call to reform. His influence is heavy, not because of his fame, but because of his credibility. When a man who spent 50 years in golf says enough, the sport has to listen. Whether it will is another matter. But one thing's certain, Watson just redefined what leadership looks like in golf, not from the tee box, but from the heart. European elegance.
Well, Tom Watson said that he is ashamed of American golf fans at the Ryder Cup. His direct quote is, "I'd like to congratulate Ryder Cup Team Europe on their victory. Your team played the first few days sensationally well. But more importantly, I'd like to apologize for the rude and mean-spirited behavior from our American crowd at Bethpage Black. As a former player, captain, and as an American, I am ashamed of what happened at the Ryder Cup."
While Watson's criticism of American fans exploded across headlines, the second half of his message was almost poetic. Respect for Europe. "Your team play was sensational," he wrote, and in that moment, the class of the man shone brighter than the cup itself. Amid the noise, the thrown cans, the booze, and the bedlam, Watson chose grace. He didn't just apologize, he congratulated, and that, more than anything, separated him from the chaos. Europe's victory at Bethpage wasn't an accident, it was surgical domination. Captain Luke Donald's calm leadership, McIlroy's fire, Rahm's precision, Hovland's quiet confidence, together, they dismantled Team USA like a clockwork machine. From the first tee shot on Friday morning, it was clear. Europe had the plan, the unity, and the focus. The US had noise. By Saturday, the scoreboard told the story. Europe was ahead, the crowd was restless, and pressure turned into petulance. In that storm, Watson's respect for Europe wasn't weakness, it was wisdom. His praise stood out precisely because it came from the losing side. "They played sensationally," he said, and those words carried weight. This wasn't hollow flattery. It was acknowledgement of craft, composure, and sportsmanship, all the things missing in the American crowd. It also revealed a subtle truth. Watson's issue wasn't with passion, it was with pride masquerading as patriotism. He wasn't embarrassed that America lost. He was embarrassed that America forgot how to lose. Europe's dominance didn't need hostility to thrive. It thrived because of calm. McIlroy's post-match comments reflected that same balance, angry at the fans, proud of his team. "Disgraceful behavior," he said, before smiling through victory. The contrast was almost cinematic, Europe's focus versus America's frenzy. And as the trophy glimmered under the New York sun, the image that lingered wasn't of celebration, but of reflection. The Ryder Cup had become a morality mirror, and Watson was the one brave enough to hold it up. His message reminded everyone, golf doesn't need volume to be thrilling. It doesn't need chance to be electric. It just needs respect. As the applause for Europe rang out, this time softer, more sincere, one could almost hear Watson's voice in the background, whispering the old code: play hard, play fair, and never let the crowd define the game. Community reactions.
Now, I want to say something here. Since a viral clip of Rory and Erica, the reaction has been huge. And so many American golf fans, and do you know what? We're golf fans in general. I don't want to say American and Europe.
The golfing community didn't just react, it erupted. Tom Watson's post became a digital bonfire, drawing every opinion from golf's dusty clubhouse corners to the chaos of social media. On one side stood the purists, veterans, journalists, and old-school fans nodding in solemn agreement. Finally, someone said it. On the other, a swarm of patriot posters and meme warriors who accused Watson of being un-American, soft, or worse, British sympathizing. Because in 2025, even golf can't escape the culture wars. What should have been a conversation about respect turned into a battlefield of hashtags. Versus. Rory McIlroy, freshly victorious and still fuming from the heckling, didn't mince words. Watson's statement restores my faith in American sportsmanship, he said, his voice steady, his smirk razor-sharp. It was both gratitude and shade. Ian Poulter joined in too, tweeting that Watson's apology shows real class, something a few others could learn. The subtext was heavy. The Europeans weren't just accepting the apology, they were highlighting how few Americans had the courage to echo it. Meanwhile, US players were caught in the middle. Colin Morikawa gently agreed that some fans went too far, while Brooks Koepka shrugged and said, "It's the Ryder Cup, man. Emotions run hot." A defense or a deflection? The internet decided both. Social media turned into a spectator sport of its own. Fans debated whether golf needed to evolve or if it was already devolving. Some argued that the rowdy New York crowd was exactly what made the Ryder Cup exciting. Others said it had crossed into full-blown disrespect. One viral Reddit post summarized it perfectly. It's golf, not the Thunderdome. The split wasn't just cultural, it was generational. Younger fans saw Watson's tone as outdated, a relic of old golf decorum. Older ones saw it as a moral necessity, a final cry to save golf's soul before it drowns in influencer energy drinks and crowd-screamed taunts. And then came the inevitable media tension. Former players like Justin Leonard and Brandel Chambly debated the issue live on Golf Channel, with Leonard praising Watson's honesty while Chambly accused him of making golf look elitist. The irony? Both were right. Because Watson's statement wasn't just about manners, it was about identity. Was golf still the gentleman's game, or just another noisy spectacle pretending to be noble? As the debate spiraled, one thing became clear. Watson's apology had done what few press conferences or rule changes ever could. It made the world talk about golf again. For better or worse, he'd turned a quiet game into headline drama. And maybe, just maybe, that was the wake-up call the sport needed. Media frenzy. Once Watson hit post, the media engines roared to life. ESPN ran it as breaking news. Watson, ashamed of American fans. The Guardian called it a stunning rebuke from golf's conscience. CBS Sports dissected every word, every comma, every pixel of his ex-post, turning it into a morality play disguised as analysis. Overnight, Watson went from living legend to trending topic. News anchors read his apology in tones usually reserved for geopolitical statements. Golf Twitter exploded, Golf Reddit imploded, and by morning, even non-golfers were saying, "Did you see what Tom Watson said?" The media's tone was split like a bunker shot. Half treated Watson like a hero, the elder who dared to say what the PGA wouldn't. The other half painted him as a purist stuck in the past, unwilling to accept that modern fans are louder, rowdier, and armed with smartphone cameras instead of etiquette. ESPN ran a poll. Should fans be allowed to yell at golf events? The results were chaos. 52% said yes, 48% said no, and the comment section descended into verbal warfare. Meanwhile, golf's governing bodies scrambled for damage control. PGA of America officials released a bland statement about reviewing crowd management protocols, which satisfied exactly no one. European media, however, had a field day. Headlines like, "Watson says what America won't," ran in the Daily Telegraph and The Independent, framing him as a noble truth-teller standing above the fray. For once, Europe and America weren't just separated by an ocean, but by the idea of what sportsmanship even means. The irony was thick. Watson's intention was to restore respect, but his words became clickbait for the very outrage culture he despised. TikTok was full of clips from Bethpage, drunken chants, heckles, even a slow-motion video of McIlroy's glare overlaid with dramatic music, and right beside them, stitched, remixed, and hashtagged, Watson's somber tweet, treated like gospel. Golf had officially gone viral, and not for the reasons anyone wanted. Through it all, Watson stayed silent after that one post. No interviews, no clarifications, no follow-up rants. Just the digital echo of his original words. Maybe that was the point. In a world obsessed with shouting, silence can sound revolutionary. Future fallout. The shockwaves from Watson's apology didn't fade, they evolved. Behind the scenes, whispers began circulating through golf's upper chambers. Fan behavior reviews, new conduct codes, even alcohol restrictions. The PGA of America was reportedly furious, not at the fans, but at Watson for airing the dirty laundry so publicly. He embarrassed the institution, one anonymous official told a reporter. But to the rest of the world, he didn't embarrass golf. He rescued it from pretending everything was fine. The next Ryder Cup, set for 2027 in Ireland, now looms under the weight of Watson's words. European officials have already promised tightened crowd protocols, a polite way of saying no Bethpage nonsense allowed. Some US players are already dreading the revenge atmosphere that's bound to erupt overseas. Karma in golf spikes harder than a driver off the tee. The conversation has shifted, not about who will win, but how fans will behave when the tables turn. For organizers, the fallout is logistical and existential. They've been forced to admit what's long been ignored. Golf fandom has changed. It's younger, louder, and more performative. Fans aren't just watching, they're participating, trying to go viral from the rough. Watson's post struck at that cultural nerve. Should golf evolve to accommodate this energy or protect itself from it? For the first time, the PGA doesn't have an easy answer. Players, too, are quietly anxious. Keegan Bradley's leadership has come under scrutiny. Did his slightly too far comment embolden the rowdy behavior? Should captains have more control over the crowd? Even the idea of miking captains to address fans mid-match has been floated, because apparently, golf now needs crowd referees. Meanwhile, Watson himself has become something of a reluctant prophet. His words are quoted in interviews, policy meetings, and sports columns, rude and mean-spirited, now serving as shorthand for everything golf doesn't want to be. The irony? Watson didn't demand reform, he just wanted decency. But in golf's desperate effort to modernize, it might have to rebuild itself from the sand trap of public shame he accidentally dug. So, yes, Watson's legacy lives on, but not in the way anyone expected. The 2025 Ryder Cup may be over, but the sport is still playing the longest, hardest round of its life, the one against itself. Moral legacy. As the noise fades, Tom Watson's post remains, a quiet, stubborn monument in golf's digital history. It wasn't a tantrum, it wasn't a publicity grab. It was a man, shaped by decades of fair play, stepping into chaos to say, enough. That's why his words still matter weeks later. Because in a sport obsessed with winning, he reminded everyone what losing gracefully looks like. Watson's legacy isn't just built on trophies or swing mechanics. It's built on moments like this, when he chooses principle over popularity. Younger golfers might not fully grasp it, but for those who watched him in his prime, this was classic Watson, poised, precise, and unflinchingly honest. He didn't just represent golf's golden past, he became its moral conscience, the voice reminding everyone that no amount of sponsorships or pyrotechnics can replace respect. In the aftermath, golf publications have begun calling him the conscience of the game. Even his critics begrudgingly admit that his stance might save the Ryder Cup from itself. Think about it. An event designed to celebrate rivalry nearly destroyed by the very passion it inspired. Watson didn't let that irony go unchecked. He named it, shamed it, and offered a path back to dignity. And that's the twist, isn't it? In trying to defend golf's civility, Tom Watson accidentally reignited its relevance. Millions who hadn't cared about the Ryder Cup in years suddenly tuned in, not for birdies, but for behavior. His honesty made golf dramatic again, not through scandal or showmanship, but through conscience. So, as fans argue and the PGA drafts new rules, one truth lingers like a putt that won't drop. Golf doesn't need to be loud to be powerful. It just needs to remember its soul. And maybe, just maybe, it took Tom Watson, the last gentleman of the game, to remind everyone of that. Watson's voice might fade from the headlines, but the echo he left behind? That's just beginning. Because if this was his final message to the game, we might have all missed what he was really trying to say. Until next time, remember, in golf and in life, the quiet ones usually know the most.